Don't throw your Casio Mudmaster clone away. There is a way to change out the batteries. That's what this video is all about. I had to teach myself because I figured there's got to be a way. They're not disposable watches, and the good news is they're not. You can crack into them, you can change out the batteries. There are two batteries, one powering the LCD screen, this one's still working, and one that powers the analog hands. That one has died. I recommend when you take the back off, you replace both of them. That way you're good to go for about another 2, maybe 3 years, depending on how it works for you. First, I'm going to take off this screen protector that has been on the whole time. I don't think that's mine. I think that's the factory one that came with it. And this is a really cool coloration, the navy black camouflage pattern. I'm also going to show you how to mod the hands on the SMAEL. I will make them pure white probably, and then I will paint the seconds hand orange. I'm thinking, do I want to make those pure white or not? And the whole video is going to go like this. I'm going to show you what I'm thinking as I progress. I'm really not sure because these hands have a boat tail to them. See how they're black? And if you paint them pure white, then they're going to look definitely different. I'm going to think about it as I'm digging into the watch. I don't really know at this point. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. First, we got to take off the band. This is how you're going to do it. Get a little tiny jeweler screwdriver like this and just come under these pins and just pull them out. They're just friction pressed in there. I may go fast forward occasionally during the video if it gets boring. You may think that, oh, that has an Allen head on it. That's a psych out. Those aren't really Allen heads and they won't do anything. So I just use a smaller screwdriver there. And what do you know, a smaller Mar on that one. And maybe you'll come up with a different way to do it. But again, these are what, $20 watches? Does it really matter? Sometimes you can just leave the stabilizer on the strap. And I got to tell you, I just love the straps on these SMAELs. They are so excellent. And they will fit first generation Casio GG 1000s. I told you that in the Casio Mudmaster update. They're every bit as good as Casio straps. And Casio will charge you for this camouflage pattern, if they made it, $100 easily. All right, this one still has the back protector on the case back. I'll take that off and just discard it. Then I'm going to take these 4 screws off right here. This is what I'm using right here. It is like a mini driver and it has interchangeable bits on it. I may put some links below for my tools. They're all inexpensive. If you're going to dig into watches and start having fun with them, which by the way I do recommend, it is fun, great hobby, then you need to kind of set yourself up with some tools. So as I take these out, of course I'm putting them in the glass dish. I wouldn't say this is a really easy mod to crack into a SMAEL tactical watch or ones like it, like the Lambdas, but it's doable. It is a kind of a complex watch because it's an anodigi, so it has an analog presentation, of course, a digital presentation, so that takes some mechanicals to drive all that stuff. Now, what you can do, and I recommend it, see how this is oriented a certain way? I just take my marker, my permanent marker, and I'll do this. So I'll just mark the case right here and right here in black. And so you see how those match up? It's just a real quick way so you figure out the case orientation before you take it off. I'll lift up. That O-ring's going to come out probably. We will have to reset it. I'll show you that when we get to it. Okay, so this battery right here, I believe, runs the LCD screen. And I think it's like a 2016, it might be a 2032. Let's go ahead and take that one out right now. Remember, even though it's running, we're going to replace all the batteries. Now, this is a different screw, and so what I'm going to do is get another glass dish and use that for the internal screws so I don't get them confused with the case back screws. This is magnetic, so it's holding it. See that right here? Kind of helpful. And then I'll just gently put it there, keep track of all those screws, and then I just lift this battery off. oh, I'm sorry, it's a 2025, not a 2016. And you can see the LCD display died. Okay, so we are going to huck this one. Remember, if you're going to crack into it, you might as well replace all the batteries. Save yourself some time. And now we're going to get to the other part. I think what I'm going to do actually is put this screw back in. That way I will keep that battery retention plate in position and it won't be bothering me. I don't want to tighten it all the way. See what I did? Just put it back in just temporarily. Now that we have that secured, I'm going to remove this back plate, and that should reveal the other battery. Two batteries in the SMAELs. Same with the Casios actually too. So any Anagage watch usually will have the same type of configuration. Now, taking these watches apart, it's kind of interesting. You think, well, these are cheapo watches. They're going to be really cheapo inside. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing about the same quality levels as I see inside a Casio. Isn't that remarkable? I mean, I told you guys in my tabletop review that, so I'm just taking these screws out right here. That one's my retention screw. Let me put that in a little bit more. Casio's a better product, don't get me wrong. It's a really quality watch. It is. If you want a real Mudmaster, get a real Mudmaster. I've always said that. I just love them. I own several. But I'll tell you what, these SMAELs are not too far behind. These are legitimate watches. They are. They're durable. They're lightweight. They're really cool looking. I do give them away all the time to TMPers. And I hear really good reports about them. They love them. Okay, again, I'm going off memory here. Let's see. I think this will expose the other watch. Oh, what do you know? I do have to take this retention screw off. Let me see if this is the same. So now I'm using like sharp tweezers for this one since it's kind of in there. Let's see if it's the same as those screws. Nope, it's shorter. So I'm going to leave that one out just right there. We'll take this back off, and there you go. I think that's the battery right there. Okay, so that exposes that plate right there. Take your tweezers, and let's mark the orientation again. We're going with this area right here. Same as before. Do ourselves a favor. Just gently pull that up. Voila! There is the battery for your analog hands in your SMAEL tactical watch, y'all. So it is, let me see if I can read it, a 626. So we're not going to replace it quite yet because I want to mod these hands out, but this is as far as you'd have to go, really. So you can actually stop watching the video here if you want to, if you just wanted to know how to replace the batteries. And you just pop this 626 battery out. You take your circuit board, put it back in according to your orientation. You put your backing plate back on according to the orientation, and you're just very careful, and you screw all those little screws back in. Voila, your SMAEL tactical watch is back in operation. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. So I'm going to use a large embroidery needle now to release the stem crown assembly. Let me show you where this is at right here. So you see where it says push right here? Okay, now underneath there, there's going to be a little tiny plate, and it's going to have a little tiny divot. Let me show that to you. See that right there? So there's a little piece of insulator there. It's not that. It's an exposed metal plate. There's a little tiny place to put the tip of your needle there. So we're going to push down on that with the crown pushed in, and it should come out now. Boom. There you go. So we've just taken the crown out now from the SMAEL. Now let's mark our orientation as we have been doing, making our life easier. When we put it back together, we'll be so glad we did that. Now we're going to take this out. Okay, now notice these pins right here. These are the ones I was talking about earlier. So there's one here, here, and here. These are a little bit tricky when you get back in. Just use some finesse and be patient. It works out fine. And when they come off, they should stay in position, but they'll come out of orientation, I think, with the pushers. See, they're just kind of on those pivots right here. Let me show you. I don't know if you see that. So see how they're just kind of wiggling right here? And let me zoom in. Sorry if I'm too far away. Maybe I'll crop it prior to this, but I want to zoom in now so you can kind of see more what I'm doing. Here on the Nutnfancy workbench. Okay, now we're going to lift this part out. And I think I'm just going to take these off. I'll just put them back on when it's time. It'll be simple enough. Boom, here we go. A couple things I want to show you here. This is a plastic insert inside the case of your SMAEL. I think that's just resting in there. So be careful about turning this over. See how that's just flopping around in there? It's kind of a pain to get back. So what we're going to do is just leave it oriented like this. And then I want you to cover it with something. Let me see what I have that I could cover it with. Well, I have this dish. So I'm going to use this little cup. And I'm going to cover it like this while I'm working on the watch. And that will prevent dust from getting inside of it. And again, that's another one of our boons as we're doing watch modifications. Oh, darn it. It just dawned on me that I wish I would have oriented the hands properly. Let me do this. I'm going to put the crown back in. And what I normally do, dudes, I recommend you do as well, is put it in the 6 o'clock position. So I'm putting the crown stem back in. I'm going to pull it out. It's upside down, so let me do it right side up to you guys. And now I'll just go to 6 o'clock position. And I just like that when I take hands off. It just reminds me of, you know, where I'm at. And sometimes it'll sync up with like a little 24-hour clock. On this one, it doesn't matter so much. Remember, to remove the assembly, you're going to have to push the crown in first. We find the push point. And then I just use my mouth usually to take out the crown. That works fine. Okay, the next tool I want you guys to have and invest in if you're going to do this stuff is a hands puller tool. Really easy to do, actually. Now, what I'm doing these days, and I have a lot of experience in watches now, is I try not to have these touch the watch face. I recommend you do the same. Try to keep it off the watch face because they mar so easily. Yeah, this is a $20 watch. I understand that, but I still want it to look good. I'm going to do the second hand first. So I just put those little hands around it, then I pull, off it comes. Try not to bend them. This is where we're at a decision point here. So, do I paint these hands completely white? You see the boat tail area I was talking about? See how that's pure black? When I go white on that, it's going to kind of change the look of the hand. I think we're going to do that because I want the hands to seem broader. See how they're outlined in navy blue? Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's totally serviceable. I like them how they come, but we're going to paint these ones. Not tape them, but paint them. I have put out a video on how to tape watch hands. Since I filmed that, I am doing a lot more painting. I've got my painting process down pretty good. I want to show you how I paint these. So there's your hours hand pulled off the SMAEL. This one's going to be a little bit trickier. Just put the arms underneath it. See this right here? How I'm situated. I'm not really touching the case back. And if it does, don't worry about it. A couple little mars ain't going to make a difference. These ones are really on, so this one's hard. Oh, freak. There it come. Oh, that's why. So it's got a big old shaft that goes down in there and really puts that hours hand on. Interesting, huh? Look at this. I told you these things are well made. I mean, that is not a cheesy watch. I see better quality in this SMAEL than I see in a lot of the other so-called higher priced watches, and I've done a lot of watch hand modifications. Okay, so I'm going to get my toothpicks. And I'm going to show you something I'm doing now. Usually I just paint them. I don't even prep them anymore. But since I touched this one, I'm going to go ahead and alcohol it to get any finger grease off of it. Generally, if you don't touch your watch hands, as soon as you pop them off, you can just go ahead and paint them. They'll work fine. It'll adhere good enough as long as you're careful on how you handle them post-paint job. When you handle any watch hand, be very careful. Do not put pressure on them. They're very thin metal. These are actually sturdier than a lot of other watch hands. They're really good watch hands, actually. So many of them are so delicate. If you bend them, you'll be here another hour trying to straighten them out. I'm not going to alcohol that other one because I didn't really touch it. What I'm going to do is get a toothpick that I sanded down to be really sharp. Look at this. See how sharp that is? And we're going to go in the top of the hand like this is how we're going to paint it. So I'm a little bit shaky because I'm post shoulder surgery on this, and so I'm on meds, so I'm not doing great. Show goes on. Show goes on. Okay, right here. The reason I'm going in the top of this is because as paint goes, I don't want it to get in the hole and change it dimensionally. I have found that if paint gets in there, you can have some issues that way. So these days, I just go on the top. I don't press it down too hard, just enough to make it stick on the hand. That's what I want you guys to do, okay? From Uncle Nutnfancy to you. Here we're going to do the same thing. I came in on the top on this one. I'm going to change. Focus, focus. There we go. And let's see if the diameter of this toothpick is good enough. It is. You can see my bad fingernails there. That's usually why I'm wearing gloves. Like that. Cool. So we've got those two ready. And now here's how we're going to paint the second hand. This is a process that I've come up with. It works fantastic. You get some of this earthquake putty. It's this little blue putty. You can buy it at a lot of different places. I'll put a link perhaps below if I find it. I bought this at Walmart. I just get a little tiny dab of it. I roll it so it's kind of pointy like this. I actually have too much on this one. This is what it looks like. I take my second hand and I turn it upside down and I stab it into the putty. And this second hand is unusual in that it has a really long shaft to it. Most second hands do not have that. But since it has to reach far down into the LCD mechanism of the SMAEL watch, that's why they have to do it. Really interesting design. And a lot goes into it. This seems like they put a lot more into this watch than they would a standard watch. That's ready to paint. Now, once in a while, if I feel like it, I'll get a can of compressed air and I'll shoot some air on there, get any dust off of it. Don't blow very hard, don't use full pressure. I'll do the same with ours hands. And all of these are going to be painted in a coat of white first, no matter what color you make them. Did you catch that? So it doesn't matter if you're going to, darn it, doesn't matter if you're going to paint the hands white or not. They will all get painted white initially. A little bit of compressed air on this one. And stuff goes wrong. It just does. And by the way, I should be covering this watch right here, or that face. Let me see. I have an old case back here from, what is this? A 511 tactical watch that totally died on me. I'll just cover it with that. Oh, darn it. So it doesn't get a bunch of dust on it. Yeah, stuff goes wrong. You just got to work past it, and you'll learn. Yep, that looks good. Looks good. I'm going to change the camera over here to where we're going to do some painting. I'm going to show you my situation. Just a piece of cardboard in the shop is where I paint. If I'm doing a lot of it, I'll take it outside, but we're just doing one set of hands right now. Here's my Krylon flat black when I make the hands flat black. I've had good results with it. It's good. Here's my fluorescent orange Krylon. That's been good. I use this all the time, obviously. I've gone through multiple cans. And here's my white paint of choice. Not Krylon. I'm using Testors model paint. It seems like it goes on smoother. Really a nice paint. And I actually like the smaller cans. They're easier to work with. And I try to, maximize it. This one's almost empty. When they get empty, don't use it because they start splattering. So I can't use this one anymore. Maybe for some, spray jobs I can, not this one. Here's where I put my hands after I spray them. It is a chunk of acoustical foam screwed onto a chunk of 2x4 with screws. Simple Simon. And so I stab my toothpicks in it to dry. Man, I can't believe it took me so long to figure out how to dry these hands. But this works great because once you spray them, they have to be set aside and you don't want to get them bent up. And you want to just shoot a really light coat on them, about like that. We're going over a black coloration. Get the sides too. And that's all we're going to do right here. That's it. And then we're going to let this dry for about 20 minutes and then we'll hit it with another coat. And guess what? That's all you need to do. Seriously, that's it. Just spray them like that. Notice we sprayed them this way since I stabbed them from the bottom. And then we're going to stab them into our acoustical foam. Be careful when you do this that nothing hits those hands. Otherwise they're going to bend and you're going to be crying as you try to straighten them out. Voice of experience again. Here's our seconds hand. We're going to hit it with a white coat first, and then we'll make it fluorescent orange. Is what it looks like in its stock condition. The SMAEL's tactical hand. Oops, hit the hand as usual. A little bit on the side. Boom, sprayed my finger as usual. Second coat. Yep, I like that. Orange. Let them dry. That's about 20 minutes drying time on the hands. You may hear Mrs. Nutnfancy on the treadmill yelling at the dog. Pretty hilarious, actually. We're down in the basement. Okay, so here's the orange seconds hand. And then what I probably should have done is make sure paint doesn't get on this the seconds hand shaft right here. But what I'm going to do is take my blade, which is right here, and then we're going to scrape it away just gently, because this will change it dimensionally and make it hard to go into that little tiny hole. Oh, dang it, I almost bent that sucker. Easy to do. So I'm just scraping this paint right here. Like that right there. Yes. Now this one I'm looking, it does have, I think, a little tiny hole in the shaft right there. Probably can't see it, so right here, I think that is a little tiny hole, and there's a pen that goes in it. I know, this stuff is very micro, isn't it? It is, but you get used to working in it. You just get used to working in small dimensions. You just take your time. Get better as you go along. Now, if I have any problems with this seconds hand, what I'll do is I'll put a little tiny drop of oil on my finger and I'll put it around that seconds hand shaft right here. Let me get my lighting better, sorry about that. And then that way it'll have some lubrication. I try not to do that because I don't want it wrapping it around on the seconds hand itself. Okay, now we're going to set it. We take this case back off from that other watch. A little bit of compressed air before the hands go on. Now you might think you have to do this whole process in a dust-free environment. You don't. I wouldn't do it like where there's a bunch of sawdust or something like that. You want to be smart about it. But I'm in my shop right now, and it's definitely not dust-free. Compressed air works just fine. Now here's the trick that I've learned. I cut these little strips of electrical tape out, and this is 3M electrical tape in different colors. Then I'll apply it to the underside of the hand, and then this is how I apply it. So, and this goes for basically every watch I do. Oh crap, I had paint get on that one too. See that? Darn it. I'm not going to use that one X-Acto knife blade, or actually it's a scalpel. I'm not going to use that. I'm actually going to use this one here. Let me move this because white paint's going to drop. And I'm just going to scrape this clean. Yep. Now this one has a slight imperfection on the back. I'm not going to respray it though. For a SMAEL, it's good enough. And I'll only see it through my magnified readers that I have on right now. And by the way, to show you what they look like, it's this right here is what I'm wearing. Mandatory equipment for doing hands mods. Any kind of watch work, actually. So we're going to go down inside here. Pull our tape off like so. Man, that tape's on there. Let me loosen it up a little bit. Seeing how concentric that hands shaft is. Make sure I line up with it. Really different. This is a different system. Most watches are not like this at all. Okay, then I'm going to get my pusher tool right here. And I don't know if I have that lined up. Speaking of obstacles. What I try to do is set it to the 6 o'clock position automatically, so I don't have to put the crown back in. That's like the perfect thing. If I can get that done, I will. Push. Oh, yes. Okay, so I pushed it, I seated it. Be careful on some watches, when you push it, the movement might come out from the face. So sometimes it's best to do it against a firm surface. Maybe use your finger behind it. With a SMAEL, as you saw here, it didn't really matter that much. Now I'm going to put the crown back in because it's not quite lined up, and I don't want to push it if I can avoid it. On some watches I will. Depends on what it is. Maybe it will pivot on the shaft, but also you can destroy a movement by pushing it once it's been seated. Put this sucker in right here, pull it out, and then we can change it. See? So it's moving. Also check your clearance right here. So if you see how it's, so I'm not showing you it very good. Let me get my O light out, then I'll illuminate it. Just look and make sure it is similar to stock condition. So you can see the hand right there is pretty much flat. We got clearance to rotate it. We didn't push it on too far, which by the way is a big gotcha with some watches. I don't think the SMAEL is that sensitive to it, but you don't want to push it on so hard that you hit the face of the watch. And just give it a minor push more to make sure it's really seated. Rotate, check clearance. Looks good, looks good, looks good. Now for the minutes hand. I'm going to line that up as best I can. Get my tape right here. Flip this sucker upside down. Tape. Dang it, I got freaking overspray on that one too. Dang it, things I forgot. I should have been more careful on this, so I got to scrape this one off too. Now, when I did it before, I think I taped them. That's why I didn't really remember to do it. I think I just taped the hands on other SMAELs that I did. Or I may have just done the seconds hand only, not the hours hand or the minutes hand. Don't layer too much paint on these. Probably 2 coats is all you want. You do beyond that with some watches, you're going to have hands clearance problems. The hours hand and the minutes hand may be rubbing into each other. Like I said, in some watches the tolerances are very tight. Not all, some. Okay, so I scraped the paint off that shaft. Let's take a look at the hands, make sure they're not marred up. Looks pretty good. Oh, dude, that does look pretty good. I like that. That is stark. Like stark. Pretty much every hands modification I do is about making them stark and poppy. Very poppy. Very poppy Harlow. Let's go like that. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what's up. So my hours hand is lined up, and this is where I want to just kind of gently push my minutes hand. Once it's in position, I just put some pressure on it, Press, 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 press. And before I push it anymore, I'm going to check alignment. Make sure it jibes with the 12 o'clock position. I think that's about good right there. Now, we don't have that chapter ring to check like the minutes markings around the circumference, but you can see that it's lined up pretty good. Now for the seconds hand, this is going to look really good. I'm really liking how it looks. I'm glad we painted them. We already scraped this shaft off, so it's ready for insertion. I know that has a sexual connotation to it. Scrape the shaft off, ready for insertion. Talking about watches, of course. Ooh, that looks good. Dadgum. Daddy like. God, that looks awesome. Okay, and then we're going to press. Not too hard, about like that. Then I'm going to look at my hands, check out the clearances. One thing I forgot to do is really press that minutes hand on more. I'm going to just take a wooden toothpick and press on the back just a little. Oh, dang it. I marred it a little bit. Damn it. Ah, son of a gun. Why did I do that? Oh. Let me see if it's like a showstopper. I should have just left it alone. Damn it. I don't want to take them off and repaint it. Let me see without magnification how it looks. I'm going to leave it. Just leaving it. Good enough. You get the picture. That's the story of my life. Just leave it alone, Nuttin. It's fine. So I mess with it and I make it worse. Standard. Now, if this was a watch that I wear all the time, I'd take it off and repaint it. Taking the stem out. And here we go. Putting it back in the case. But before I do that, I need to replace this battery. So here is the 2025. That's going to be for the LCD movement. Dust free on this. I want to blow this off again. Lightly. Now you'll notice the orientation marks are helping right here. See that? And also there's little tiny grooves that align the movement. So when you get it right, it'll just slide right in. You shouldn't have to force it. If you're forcing it, you've done something wrong, bro. Let's check the dust factor. Make sure I don't have any rubs or dust in there that's obnoxious. Looks pretty good actually. Now we are going to put the backing plate on with the pusher tabs right here. Let me get my tweezers. Now, when I first got a hold of these SMAELs, I didn't have the watch skills I do now. And in that first review, I was like saying, you know, I don't know if you can replace the batteries on this. I really don't know. As I've shown here, the answer is definitely you can. You definitely can replace the batteries. And actually, you can take the entire watch apart, as I have done. I don't think a lot of you guys will do hands mods on these, though. You're going to go, dude, it's not worth it. I'm not going to do that. Well, I kind of think it is worth it, really. I mean, the results are so epic. I just love it. I just love it. I hope I got that on the right side. These both look about the same. We'll find out, won't we? Should have marked them. Looks about right. So we've got our pusher plates in there for the buttons. Probably something you don't use very often on your SMAEL watch. And then we put our circuit board panel back on. A little bit of air on it, get any dust off. A little bit of air here, get any dust off. Then we look for our orientation mark right here. Boom. Looking good. Looking good. good, dude. Oh, I like that. And then we are going to put the backing plate on. And I think we'll put the battery on after that. Orientation mark right here. Spring goes through this little hole right here. Twist it a little bit. I'm not quite there. Trying to get some other videos done tonight too. I'm working hard for you guys. EDC update videos on my EDC system. 2 new acronyms. They're going to be LPFAC, low probability for arm conflict, and high probability for arm conflict. I'll have 2 different systems to show you guys. Boom, this is turning out cool. So maybe you're getting the feeling inside this SMAEL watch that it's actually pretty well made. You should be, because that's my takeaway. I don't think it's crappy at all. I think these SMAELs and what's the other brand, Lambda or whatever they're calling them, they're good watches. They really are. They're not crap. You know, they don't have the features of a Mudmaster for sure. The Mudmasters dominate them. But for what you're paying, dude, the looks you're getting, and that's pretty much what we wear watches for, is the look. Pretty amazing, actually. And this screw right here we've kept, and fortunately I did not lose it. It's a nice change. That will be our retention screw for the battery plate. So that should keep our LCD screen going, and what do you know? It is. Oh, dudes, we're getting there. We're getting home free. So exciting. O-ring coming back in. Let's see how this seats. Sometimes these can be a real bear because they're too small. This one looks to be... Once you take them off, sometimes they just shrink. It's weird. You can stretch them out carefully to go in that groove. I'm gonna take a look at this one. Yeah, I'm gonna stretch this one a little bit. So here's how we're gonna do it. We're just gonna take it and do this right here. Gentle stretch, hold it. Then we put it back in the O-ring groove, and it'll start contracting to fit. Little Nutnfancy trick. There you go. And then we look for our orientation mark right here. We marked it right here on the case. O-ring looks good, battery looks good. Oh yeah, let's put a date on it. So we put a new battery set, bat set 12/19 is the date I'm filming this. And so you'll find out how long the battery lasted you. A little air on the back plate, get all the dust out. So I have dove these SMAEL watches as I've shown in the Mudmaster update video, and they do okay. I mean, for swimming, they're fine. Am I going to go scuba diving with them down to like 50, 60 feet? No, that's stupidity. But for swimming, light swimming, like on the surface, near the surface, I think they'll do fine. I had really good luck with them. I dove 2 of them and they both survived. I think they're rated only to like 30 meters. Dang it. Good enough though. Get a real Mudmaster if you want to go deeper. And by the way, I still love my real Mudmasters. There's nothing like the real thing. Like I said in the reviews, they're just awesome. A little bit pricey. At least a GWG, the full featured Mudmaster, solar powered, atomic version. They also have smart versions that hook up to your phone now, like I talked about. I showed a screenshot of them. Those smart Mudmasters are cool. I don't know if they're that cool though for the price they're asking. And I don't know if I need my Mudmaster hooking up to my smartphone. As long as it's you know, doing its atomic time sync, I'm happy with that. The main reason I care about a smart watch is for time hacking, primarily. One more screw. That's what she said. Boom. Look at that, dudes. Oh, dudes, look at that. That looks epic cool. Epic cool. Let me sign the back of it. Always got to sign it. Bands and stabilizers coming back on. Putting the strap back on. This is the circular portion that mates with this part. Get my strap pushers. You can usually just use your fingers with this initially, and then if they're stubborn you can push them in with something. I don't know, whatever you want. Let me use this one right here. Boom. Perfect. Thanks for being part of TNP Patreon. I really appreciate it. I like some money coming in. I ain't gonna lie. It's a lot of work doing the project. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy helping guys out with their systems. It is a life mission of mine. However, it's great to be profitable in doing so. Took me forever to get in the green. Gosh. Before I was like, you know, making a few bucks in TNP, it took me forever. Years and years. I was spending so much. Oh yeah, I forgot to put in the crown here. Ah, there we go. Make sure it's in there all the way. Yep. They look pretty good. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you is that sometimes when you do a watch modification, everything looks right. And lo and behold, there's a hands rubbing going on and the hands will stop. And you're going to have to take the whole thing apart again and change it. Now, I did look at the clearances of the hands on this one very carefully. I think they're good to go. I'm not worried about them. But if you do a watch mod, you might want to spend some time with that. And just look very carefully between the seconds hand, the minutes hand, the hours hand, and make sure they're not going to rub against each other. If they are, just bend one of them slightly. You will not be able to tell in the case. You won't be able to tell. Man, that looks great. Modified SMAEL tactical watch here in the Nutnfancy workshop. Batteries replaced. I'm going to put on a crystal protector on this later on tonight. The blue camouflage version is fantastic with this band. Really cool. And now it's even better with the mods performed. Thanks for watching. Again, thanks for being in TNP Patreon. All the support, subscribing. We'll see you online, bro.